This PC build represents a lot of firsts for me. My first all AMD build, my first real micro ATX build that's meant to be powerful, my first all white build, my first build where every single component that could be made by a single manufacturer was, and the first build where virtually nothing went wrong. I'm still kind of in shock by that last one. Special thanks to ASUS for hooking me up with the parts for this build. I've worked with ASUS almost my entire career and I've never had major issues with their PC components. Before cracking open the case, I load up the brains of the machine. I wanted a smaller build here. This is replacing my gaming PC in the house, not for work. Purely for games, for relaxation, for frame rate maxing and headshot mogging, and I wanted it small on my desk and not making a lot of sound. To stick with the small size, I grabbed the ASUS TUF Gaming B850M Plus Wi-Fi 7 W3. Quite the mouthful of a name, but it's got everything I need in this tiny square. PCIe 5.0 slot for my graphics card, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet for speedy copying of my gameplay recordings to my beefy Storinator server called the Phylactery. But more on that in a future video. Wi-Fi 7, should I need it, a beefy 20 gigabit per second rear USB-C and 10 gigabit per second front USB-C for all the connectivity I need, 3 M.2 slots including 2 behind a beefy heat shield. Lots of good connectivity and some smooth quality of life things, like an attached I.O. shield to save me the usual embarrassment of finding my loose I.O. shield after screwing the motherboard in, and a lever to unlock the graphics card from its slot so I don't gotta try to stab at the slot lever with the screwdriver, which I always do. In the center goes the CPU of choice for this build, the AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D, 8 cores, 16 threads, 3D V-cache for even smoother gaming performance. I already have the 9950 X3D in my work computer, and I know they have the new X3D V2 chips out now, but I bought this CPU open box at a discount over a year ago. Parts shortages and hardware winter really screws with a build plan. It's been a little while since we've tried to get this together. This will be plenty powerful enough for gaming for many years to come, regardless. I also slotted in 32 gigabytes of T-Force Delta DDR5 memory running at 6400 mega transfers a second. Speedy memory and a good amount of it in case I do any video editing or just for general future-proofing. Linux doesn't use a lot of RAM, but you know, we want RAM these days. Plus, it's white and matches the all-white theme I've apparently stumbled into here. In the 2 heat-shielded M.2 slots, I put 2 2TB NVMe drives, one for the OS, programs, captures, and so on, and the other one for bulk game storage. I usually run a minimum of a 4TB boot drive these days, but have you looked at the market lately? Now, these 2 SSDs are the only parts that I'm using that I carried over from previous builds. Maybe that's why this build hasn't gotten the same tech curse that everything else I touch seems to get. Next, it was time to get the case opened up and start running power supply cables to make life easier. Power will be no limitation in this build, as we've got the TUF Gaming 1000 watt gold PSU setup, again, in white, even though it will be hidden in the bottom compartment of the case. The cables are white though. This is a nice modular PSU with ATX 3.1 compatibility, and it stays super quiet. Oh yeah, all of this build is going in a case, but what case? This beautiful arcade machine looking box is the ASUS Prime AP202 white case. We've got fan exhaust on the back and the side, intake at the top for the CPU cooler, a rainbow unicorn vomit light bar towards the bottom, and this beautiful curved glass panel wrapping the side and the front. I've never been one for showpiece rigs, but oh boy, does this thing get a lot of looks and compliments from virtually anyone that sees it. It comes with 3 built-in fans already with nice diffused ARGB lighting and slots for additional fans at the bottom, and it's just a slick design. I am impressed. And it's got plenty of volume for all the parts I need to get into it despite being such a small size. At least for me, I'm used to building in giant towers. This entire time I've been worried about scuffing up or marking up an all-white build and tainting such a beautiful setup. But I've not done anything too horrible to it yet. After running PSU cables, 2 8-pin CPU power to the top grommet, 24-pin main power to the side grommet, and 3 PCIe power connectors through the bottom for the graphics card, I almost made an amateur mistake, putting the motherboard in without checking CPU cooler hardware. You see, I'm used to Intel builds, where to install a new CPU cooler, you have to remove the backplate off of the back of the motherboard and install a new one, and it's a whole mess that expects you to have about 5 hands at once. Thankfully, with an AMD CPU here, I just removed the 2 plastic clips on the motherboard front, screw 2 tiny brackets to the CPU cooler block, and then a bracket down on the motherboard, and it will be ready for install. That was it. In the motherboard goes screwing down and securing the CPU and motherboard power plugs, front panel connector, which thank goodness is just a single plug with this case and motherboard. I've never had such a convenient setup in any of my builds in that regard. And then front panel USB 3 and USB-C headers, front panel audio connector, and RGB headers. Next up, the CPU cooler. Keeping it with both the white and tough gaming themes we have going on here, I've got the ASUS Tough Gaming LC3 360 ARGB AIO cooler. Again, quite the mouthful. This has 3 integrated static pressure optimized fans across a giant radiator that keep your processor nice and cool. The pump and CPU block combo has a screen on board which can display a logo, an animation loop, CPU and other system temperature information, and so on. But unfortunately, only in Windows. I also made the silly mistake of thinking it could only be installed sideways based on how it looked in this configuration, but it does indeed let me mount it normally with the tubes on the bottom, and I changed it after filming most of this video. The software limitation is frustrating. The cooler has onboard memory, and you're supposed to be able to save your animation or display to it without software. But the second the computer leaves Windows, even just a reboot, it reverts to the default Tough Gaming animation, which is kind of ugly. Since I won't be using Windows on this machine, this isn't ideal, both because I wasted an hour or 2 getting Windows installed and setting up the software for no reason, and because I just don't like how the loop looks. I've chatted with my ASUS rep and he's run into a similar scenario on a Bazite build he's done. Hopefully a fix or Linux-based software can be released ASAP. It cannot be that complicated. Something neat with this cooler is that the fans are all integrated together, so you just have the one fan header power cable and one RGB header for light control to run to the motherboard. I cannot overstate how incredible of an improvement this is over past AIO setups, where you had at least 3 separate fan cables to run to a splitter or a controller, plus 3 more if you had a RGB, and so on. This is much, much smoother. So add another first to the list for this build. It's also the most minimal and cable managed build I've probably ever done. It's not impressive or magical by any means, but for me, the ease of cable management in this case, combined with being a simpler build, targeting only gaming and not also content creation, means I actually took the time to tuck cables away and only have the bare minimum showing. Very cool. After all this was hooked up, last thing to plug in was the graphics card. I gotta vote with my wallet, so we're going all AMD here, baby. That means we got the ASUS TUF Radeon RX 9070 XT OC Edition graphics card. 16 gigabytes of VRAM, 3 fans with a little pass-through cooling to keep it cool. I have never once heard this GPU in my system, and it has a separate quiet BIOS if you want to switch to it, but I don't see the need. It's blasting through 4K 165Hz gaming, and with the recent FSR updates, my gaming experience just keeps getting better. I've actually been running this rig for about a month now, and I have minimal complaints. I do not use Windows anymore, so I rolled a fresh install of CachyOS, a gaming Linux distribution based around Arch Linux. I had fully intended to use Fedora on this build as an experiment, but honestly, Cachy just has me feeling so much at home on Arch that I just wanted to stay. It's received some nice quality of life improvements since my last install on my work computers that has me even wanting to re-image those. Primarily the Limine bootloader and the Shelly package manager. Shelly is still not great, but it's a lot better than Octopi felt to me, the previous default program manager for CachyOS. The Limine, I don't know how you're supposed to say it, bootloader, however, is super fast, and now I've got my boot time down to 30 seconds or less from hitting the power button on the machine to being at a functional desktop I can use. Reboots feel instantaneous too. It's insane. As mentioned, I cannot change the CPU cooler screen on Linux, which isn't ideal. I also don't get control over most of the RGB lighting either. I will shout out OpenRGB, a really incredible software for all operating systems that let you control and customize a wide variety of RGB lighting on PC components and accessories without needing the crazy first-party apps. but it only has support for the lighting on my RAM, my graphics card, and then surprisingly, my keyboard and mouse. So the rest of the machine is still Rainbow Fest, which I'm okay with for now, but I would love eventually to be able to tune and sync up once that's possible. Regardless, OpenRGB is really impressive and lets you do some awesome stuff with the RGB products that are supported. Just requires hardware testing and community support to add more support. Honestly, this was an eye-opening experience when it comes to using parts all from the same manufacturer and even from within the same product line from that company. Everything had the exact plugs and ports I needed. No jank, no jerry-rigging, nothing else. Everything was kind of conveniently pre-routed where I needed. The fans being linked without needing a bunch of extra plugs was a lifesaver. I always advocate for just getting the most reasonably priced parts from that meet your feature set and needs from something like PC Part Picker, and I still do advocate for that. But if you're new to building or just want the convenience, going with all parts from a line like ASUS's Tough Gaming just makes a huge difference. I've been building PCs for more than 20 years, and this has probably been the smoothest build I've ever had. This PC change also led to a complete overhaul of my desk in our house. The desk has long been neglected and tends to be a complete mess, but I want it to be super functional. I want there to be nearly zero friction between me wanting to game and relax and me actually gaming. So I cleaned it up, removed a ton of cables. I'm dropping down to one monitor. I still have the old ultrawide up there for now while I wait to find a home for it. But I'm a one monitor gamer now. I haven't used a primary setup with only one screen in like 15 years. It's kind of crazy, but it helps me stay focused and immersed in my gaming. That monitor is another ASUS goodie, this time the ROG STRIX XG32UCWG. This thing is amazing. It's a 32-inch 4K 165Hz OLED monitor with adaptive sync, multiple inputs, and a beautiful what they call true black glossy coating. I used to always avoid glossy coating on monitors due to glare and reflections, but with OLEDs, the matte coatings often lead to weirder light glares that actually show up and can affect the image, so this is my first time going glossy. This specific coating is designed to not be too reflective and crazy while still enhancing the image. And ooh yes, the contrast and colors are absolutely beautiful. The monitor does support 1080p at 330Hz too as a secondary mode, which I thought would be neat, but I don't use it for two reasons. The first is just because even on an OLED, HD at this size just doesn't look very good. I thought I'd use it for Overwatch and for shooters to get the higher refresh rate, but the lower resolution is a detriment to visibility of faraway enemies, and it just doesn't look very good. But secondly, instead of 1080p 330Hz being a normal EDID profile that the monitor has that I can just select in my OS or in a game, you have to switch a mode in the menus on the monitor itself, which disconnects and reconnects the monitor into this mode, and it's a whole thing that is just kind of annoying. Broadly speaking, I've been very impressed with the OSD and controls of this monitor compared to other recent ones I've tried, and I've been over the moon with the monitor on the whole, which was quite the comfort, as I was taking a refresh rate hit from my 4K 240Hz OLED I was using before it. This one was from Gigabyte, and shortly after starting to use it in my home setup, it completely died, reverting to some debug color cycle mode. Since I bought it secondhand, despite it having just been serviced for this very issue right before I bought it, Gigabyte will not do anything about it. $600+ down the drain. This is actually a widespread issue with Gigabyte's flagship OLEDs, and they offer no fix for it. If you do get it fixed under warranty, that monitor is likely to still have the issue again within a couple months, and your warranty coverage basically ends after your first RMA. There are a ton of Reddit threads about this with people quite angry. I've reached out to Gigabyte many times over the course of this entire year for comment or update about this scenario and have never heard back. Do not buy Gigabyte monitors. Also on this desk are my shit Modius DAC for audio, a cool SMSL CD player, my LG Blu-ray drive and an external Enclosure for music, movie, and game ripping, an X-Duo tube amplifier for headphones when I really want to immerse myself in the audio of what I'm doing, and the Atom Audio D3V speakers. These actually come in white, and I kind of wish I had gotten them in white to match the rest of the setup going on here. I just didn't know I was going with a white build when I got the speakers. You might notice a couple other things below my monitor here. As well, I have a M4 Mac Mini and a cool KVM dock to go with it. This is because while this is primarily a gaming and fun only setup, I do sometimes need to work in the house. As a dad, sometimes I can't stay in my office but still need to write or do graphics or even edit videos. The Mac Mini keeps up with that, though I do still need to swap the SSD to a bigger one. I got one of those, I just haven't done it yet. And it also just runs software that isn't necessarily great or available on Linux. This is the pairing I keep in my office as well, where a beefy Linux gaming PC handles my gaming, capture, and streaming, while a Mac Studio does my editing and other work. This helps keep work and play separate, plus the Macs are just killer and silent for my kind of creative work these days. I did find a script to run the Affinity V3 software on Linux, and it sort of works, but there's still a lot of instability and such, and just ended up not working out. I also tried Sunshine and Moonlight to remote into my Mac Studio. That way I could just edit straight on there and not need to use a secondary computer. But through that setup, I could not use modifier keys, which is a problem for creative work, and the input latency was honestly awful, which is surprising. So the Mac Mini saves the day. For a long time, I had been using these $60 USB switches to switch my mouse and keyboard over and just switching inputs on the monitor. They work okay, but they do present some trouble and dropouts and other weirdness. But now I've got this honestly incredible dock. This is the AV Access iDock B10. It's both a USB dock, capable of charging a laptop if that's what you connected here, and a KVM. For the quote-unquote laptop, or in my case the Mac Mini, you connect just a single USB-C cable. And for the desktop, you connect a USB host plug, then DisplayPort and HDMI for video signals. And then you can switch between the two machines with dual monitor support at high resolutions and frame rates, which is awesome. On the front, you've got two USB 3 5 gigabit per second ports, two USB 10 gigabit per second Type A ports, and one 10 gig Type C port, an SD card reader, a headset combo jack. It's loaded. You also have gigabit networking port on the back for the quote-unquote laptop computer. Press the button or use the included little remote button to switch between computers. I've detected no input latency, and on my desktop, my monitor still works at full speed, so I've got 4K, 165Hz, Adaptive Sync, HDR, all of it. For the Mac Mini, I am only getting 4K 60Hz, but I think it's because this is not a full Thunderbolt dock, it's just a USB dock, but honestly, totally fine. This thing is an absolute game changer for this setup and everything would just be a much bigger pain without it. I kind of want a second one for the studio setup, but I've already maxed out the USB capabilities of my Mac Studio in there, so I'm not sure it would honestly work out. All of this sits on a sit-stand desk. Long term, I do need to tidy up cable management, find a way to mount the speakers to my monitor arm. They do come with 1/4-20 tabs, so I just need the right arms for it, and I'm doing a whole different project to fix up my networking setup over here as well. But that's for a future video. I am over the moon with this PC build. It's super speedy, both with the crazy fast CPU, and honestly, the 9070XT is kind of impressing me as well. I've not played anything where I really thought I was missing out on performance here, and my AMD graphics experience has been a lot more stable since the last time I tried. The machine does spike in temps every once in a while doing something in the background, like when I first launch Overwatch, and then it gets kind of decently loud for a brief period of time to compensate. I'm still working out what's causing that spike, but otherwise I feel completely at home on this rig, and it's almost completely silent otherwise. Only gaming, only fun. I've got Steam and Lucius and Heroic, I've got emulators and PC recompilation ports. It's just a damn good time. Plus, I've got split HDMI run from our new TV setup, so I can capture all of our console gameplay over here as well. I added in this $45 PCIe Gen 4 X1 10 gigabit NIC to the bottom slot on this motherboard to get even faster speeds to my NAS, and it's been working great, and that's the only real hardware change I've made to this machine since building. More videos on how I am playing these days at these different setups and whatever are coming soon. Go check out my video on Lost Saves about Linux gaming myths you should stop believing. Go check out my physical gaming magazine called Jam Packed that I just launched, and remember to be kind, rewind.